hello, and welcome to the Core Dog Experience, where I talk Ohio State Buckeyes. So if you're liking this segment, please hit the like button. And if you enjoy Buckeye content in general, please subscribe. Help a brother grow this thing out. And again, thank you for the recent subscriptions. Appreciate it. Just keeping it going, y'all. Keeping it going, y'all. Keeping it going. So appreciate all the likes, all the subscriptions, all the comments. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. But today's focus, conference realignment. We knew it was coming back into the news. It's coming back into the news big time. Big time. One more year before the teams actually start playing in their conference that they're moving to. But there's been a lot of chatter these last few weeks about conference realignment, what the Big Ten is going to do, what the Pac-12 is going to do, what the Big 12 is going to do. A lot of talk, a lot of chatter. Everyone throwing out their scenarios this way, that way, who's going where, who's doing what. Well, you know what? I'm going to do it too. I'm going to do it too. I'm going to throw my hat in the mix and see how it goes. See how it goes, this conference realignment. Because I've seen some of them. Some of them don't make sense. I'm gonna throw out like three different scenarios, and they all make sense. They all doable. Some of them you see they ain't doable. Mines are doable. It can happen. It can happen. Right pieces fall into place. The different scenarios I'm gonna throw at you today, it can happen. It can happen. But this all got started with the SEC getting Oklahoma and Texas. Shots fired. Shots fired. Boom. And everyone's wondering, what is Kevin Warren going to do? What's the Big Ten going to do? I didn't think the brother had it in him. I didn't think he had it in him, but he went out and did his thing. Came out out of the blue, USC, UCLA, which in my opinion trumps what the SEC did. That's just my humble opinion. I think getting SC and UCLA is bigger than the SEC getting Texas and Oklahoma. And Kevin Warren left his mark. He was here a brief time. He's off to Chicago. His tenure didn't start off too good on how he handled the COVID stuff. But at the end of the day, Kevin Warren left his mark on the Big Ten and on the future of the Big Ten. He has his fingerprints all on it by nabbing USC and UCLA. But he's on his way out the door. So it's going to be up to the next commissioner to do what they need to do to leave their mark. They have to do something to leave their mark. So, and I'm gonna put on my commissioner hat. Next Big Ten commissioner, Core Dog's gonna put his hat in for the next Big Ten commissioner, and I'm gonna go through my scenarios on what I would do to leave my mark on the conference moving forward. Cause Kevin Warren, like him, hate him, he left his mark by getting USC and UCLA. I didn't think he could do it. Not after how he handled COVID, but he did it. Came out the blue. He came out of the blue. But the next commissioner, even if it ain't Core Dog, but the next commissioner is going to want to leave their mark. And how do you leave your mark? You got to sort of, not one up them, but you got to do something significant. Something significant than what your predecessor did. We all know who the big fish out there. That's if I'm the next commissioner, which during my little thing here, I'm putting on my commissioner hat. But if I'm the next commissioner and I want to leave my mark, my lasting mark on the Big Ten, I'm going after Notre Dame. We all know every person preceding whoever the next commissioner is going to be has gone after and has made a pitch to Notre Dame, and Notre Dame has said no. I ain't doing it. I ain't going. I ain't coming. I ain't doing it. So if I'm the next Big Ten commissioner, I'm going after Notre Dame. I'm going to leave my mark. So, Core Dog, how you going to do that? How you going to go after Notre Dame? You got to make it enticing. You got to do what you got to do to make it as enticing as possible. The money aside, and I know that the TV contract they have with NBC gives Notre Dame a lot of leverage. If it wasn't for that TV contract, you know it, I know it, everybody know it, Notre Dame will be in the conference already. But they got that going for them. So kudos to Notre Dame. But that aside, I'm still making my pitch to Notre Dame because I still think the writing's on the wall. At some point, Notre Dame's going to have to fold and get into a conference if things keep trending the way they are. So, Cordall, the commish, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you some different scenarios, a couple which include getting Notre Dame. The one, is just Notre Dame, they just going to be stubborn. They just going to be some stubborn folks, and they just ain't budging regardless. But I'm going to give you my scenarios here. Cordall, the commissioner, is going to give you his scenarios on how to get Notre Dame into the Big Ten, because we all know, us fans, we may not like Notre Dame, may not think we need Notre Dame, but every Big Ten person that I sat in that seat has tried to get Notre Dame. They're the big fish of the Midwest. They should be in the Big Ten. Everyone's tried to get them. No one's been able to do it up to this point. So if I'm the next person, that is my number one priority. Do whatever I can to get Notre Dame. Okay, enough talk about that. So how am I going to go about doing this, getting Notre Dame? Being that we have USC and UCLA already in the mix. First thing, I'm going to give a couple versions here, a couple scenarios. First scenario, we're going to play a little quid pro quo with USC and UCLA. We're going to be nice. This is the gentleman's approach to try to get Notre Dame into the conference. Is you expand west. You expand out west, and you do what a lot of these folks are saying we're going to do with subtract minus a couple teams. I'm throwing some teams in there to specifically get Notre Dame. Now we want to know what are the big criteria for the Big Ten. Has always been you have to be an AAU school, and if you look around at all the other schools in the Big Ten, they're pretty much the flagship program in their respective states. The exception being Notre Dame. Yeah, Indiana and Purdue are good, but that's basketball wise, but we talking flagship programs, we talking football expansion, we talking football, and in that sense, Notre Dame is the flagship program in the state of Indiana. That's just the way it is. Basketball, Indiana, Purdue, but football, we want the Big Ten wants Notre Dame for that reason alone. So that's the criteria I'm going to be working with. They got to be an AAU, and they have to be the flagship program in their state. The AAU criteria has never mattered to the Big Ten in terms of Notre Dame. I do not believe they are AAU, and I don't think they're getting there anytime soon. They're the one exception to that rule is Notre Dame. Well, Nebraska. Remember, at the time Nebraska was invited, they were AAU, and they lost it shortly thereafter. And we're not going to kick them out. Nebraska in, that's still a brand name. Sleeping Giant, Nebraska. But the AAU criteria for all the other schools I'm going to mention here, they have to fit that criteria, and they pretty much have to be the flagship program in their respective state. So with that aside, let's get into my West Coast scenario to get Notre Dame, and I'm calling this one the friendly approach, the gentleman's approach to try to get Notre Dame. And I say that because we're trying to get travel partners for USC and UCLA. Some of that, all right, y'all coming, y'all bringing us to LA market. We're going to do y'all a solid. We're going to get you some travel partners, get you for USC, who's the big fish. Outside of Notre Dame, USC was the next biggest fish. I know Oklahoma, Texas, no, SC trumps Oklahoma and Texas in terms of football and other stuff, in my opinion. So, anyway, so we're going to be nice to UCLA and USC. And I called it this is my gentleman's version of expanding west to try to get Notre Dame to come into the conference. Because you got to make it enticing to Notre Dame and their fan base. They want to try to hold on to their rivalries. What better rivalry than to keep USC? Okay, so we already know the two teams that are being talked about, Oregon and Washington. I think that is a given. The third team the only other team out there is Stanford, because Stanford, they sort of have a little rivalry going back and forth with Notre Dame. So that's the two surefire rivalry with USC, and then Stanford and Notre Dame, they play almost on a regular basis. So I think those are the three teams The three teams you got to get four. You got to go to four teams: Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and Notre Dame. Okay, those are my teams. And I say it being nice because we really, really don't want Stanford. Stanford's more of an enticement. They get Notre Dame, so they have some of that rivalry stuff going on. Got the rivalry with USC, got the rivalry with Stanford. Travel partners for USC and UCLA. So that's my West Coast scenario. Okay, so now those are the four new teams. Everyone knows we're going four. No one says if you're only getting two more. Every scenario, everything I read, the Big Ten's are going to expand and they're going after four teams. So for the purpose of this, my different scenarios is going to be four teams, and at the end of the day, it's going to be 20 teams across the board. Across the board. Thought process there's going to be more than 20 when it's all said and done, but for this particular exercise, it's just going to be four teams. Stop and capping it at 20 teams. So, West Coast expansion, they're trying to get Notre Dame. The three teams I'm going after, the Lower Notre Dame, Oregon, Washington, Stanford. And Stanford's, again, for Notre Dame. Sort of that, they got a semi-rivalry going on. Then you got USC. So that's my West Coast expansion. And then would you split up the divisions? I think it's pretty clear on how you would do that. Of course, you got all the Pac-12 schools, the Pac-12 teams in one division. I know there's talk about getting rid of the divisions, but for my purposes, I'm keeping the divisions East, West. This is simple. It's simple. I ain't got time to do all the other stuff and how to do the scheduling and stuff. Just East West divisions, period, across the board in my different scenarios. So in the West division, two divisions, 10 schools per division. USC, UCLA, Oregon, Stanford, Washington, Nebraska. Now just we get to the Big Ten schools who would switched over. Nebraska, Iowa, then the Indiana schools. Purdue, Indiana, Notre Dame. That gets you to your 10. And I think that is good. You got your in-house. You're losing some rivalries. You're losing the Iowa, Minnesota game. You're losing some of your trophy games. Not many. Not many. Basically, the ones that Iowa has for the teams that are moving to the Eastern Division, like mainly their games with Minnesota and Wisconsin. Nebraska hasn't been here long enough to really get rivalry games going. So you're not losing much in terms of your trophy games, but you're picking up some really good rivalries in the process. SC, Notre Dame, Iowa, Nebraska remaining. So you're still getting some good stuff there. Good stuff in terms of rivalry games. So that's how I would break it up. That would be your West Division in my gentleman's version. And then, of course, on the East side, you'll have Michigan, Michigan State, Minnesota, Illinois, Northwestern, Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin, Maryland, and Rutgers. You had to do some shuffling around because I want to keep all the Indiana schools together in this scenario. All the Indiana schools stay together. Football-wise, I don't know, but basketball-wise, that's a battle for the state of Indiana right there. So that's where I'm going with that. And then the Illinois schools are going to move back to the east, get the Illabuck Trophy going again on a consistent basis. Boom. That's my West Coast scenario. Very doable, very enticing. You can make the money right for Notre Dame. That's something I think they could gravitate to. They could gravitate to if you make the right pitch. You know, we throwing in Stanford for you, Notre Dame, but we really don't want Stanford, but we'll take them. And it ain't like Stanford's a bag. I mean, the academic prestige for Stanford is right there. But sports-wise, they all right. They all right. They good in the Olympic sports. You know, the Olympics are the new term for the non-revenue sports are the Olympic sports, which I like that. I like that term better. But that is my gentleman's approach. Expand west to try to get Notre Dame. Okay. Using that same criteria now. If you don't want to use the gentleman's approach, you want to be just straight up thug about it. I mean, and I think of it in terms of this. We already have pretty much destroyed the Pac-12. We pretty much destroyed the Pac-12. You want to keep being the bully on the block and just destroy another conference. Then you go east. You go east. And I say you go east and you go to the ACC. Because right now, and I call this the thug approach, and this is the approach, if I were the commissioner, I would take this approach to try and get Notre Dame. Because first and foremost, you got to get rid of those Olympic sports I was just talking about. Notre Dame plays all their Olympic sports in the ACC. But if you disrupt the ACC, make it explode, implode, or whatever, where the Olympic sports going to go? The football team can survive. You know, this ain't about, we trying to break up, do what we can do to break up their Olympic sports and make them find another home. You take that by taking out their safety blanket. The ACC is their safety blanket, their safety net for their other sports. And breaking up the ACC may not seem as hard as it once was. Like I said, Florida State, and then recently Clemson, they both said they ain't happy. They are not happy because they're locked into their TV rights deal for over a decade. They still got a decade or so on their TV deal, but they're about to get lapped in terms of money. Florida State is not happy. Clemson is not happy. Blowing up the ACC may not be as hard as we once thought. If I'm the Big Ten commissioner moving forward, I'm going east. I'm trying to blow up Notre Dame's safety net because they got to find a home for their Olympic sports. And what better way to do that is to be a thug about it. we already jacked up the Pac-12. They're never going to be the same. Why not go jack up why not jack up the conference on the other coast? Let's go mess with the ACC a little bit. And it may not be as hard as you think to jack up the ACC, given the recent developments of Florida State and Clemson and their voicing loudly their displeasure. And in Florida State, from what I'm reading, they're trying to get into the AAU. They're trying to get into that. Only one reason they trying to do that, they like knocking at the door to the Big Ten. They like, we here, we are ready. We are ready. They are ringing the Big Ten's doorbell by trying to get into the AAU. From all accounts, from the stuff I'm reading, some of their fan boards, some of their fan sites, they're applying to try to get into the AAU. They're only doing that for one reason. They know that's one of the primary things for the Big Ten is to be a member of the AAU, unless you're Notre Dame. But if you ain't Notre Dame, you gotta be a member of that AAU. And Florida State's trying to get to the AAU. They've made it well known they are not happy with the ACC and its outlook and how it's trending. They want out. They'll go independent. Remember, they were independent before they got there. They'll go out. They'll be independent again. Then they are a free agent. If they get that AAU membership, hey, why not? If you want to be mean about it, I'll say USC, UCLA, y'all came this way. You knew potentially we weren't going to get you no travel partners. Y'all out there on your own. We going this way, and this is what we're going to do. So, with that said, the mean way about it, the core dog way about it, this is what I would do. ACC, in terms of my expansion, the 4 teams I would get, including Notre Dame. The other 3 I would get, Virginia's been the main school that always gets talked about is Virginia. They're right up there in our wheelhouse. Penn State right there, Maryland, Rutgers. Virginia's right there in that beltway or whatever you want to speak. Virginia, I think that's a no-brainer. They're good football, basketball. They're AAU. Next school I would get. It's not popular. It would be Georgia Tech. AAU, in terms of getting to Georgia, hotbed of high school football. Again, AAU, I don't think it would be hard to get them out of the ACC. I mean, they can't win no games, but at least they come to the Big Ten. They may not be able to win any games, but at least they'll be making some money. They'll be making some money at least. But Georgia Tech, and then I was just kicking around who would the 3rd team be. Then I was thinking about Pitt, but going back to my other criteria, we want the flagship programs in the state. So with that said, we already have Penn State. We don't need Pitt. Pitt's AAU, but we don't need Pitt. We already have Penn State. I don't think Pitt would add anything to the conference. So if I'm not going to get Pitt, and if Florida State's real serious about getting into the AAU and they're able to do that, that's where I'm going. Because now you got the Georgia high school recruiting, high school sports, and now you got the Florida high school sports. Because, yes, Georgia Tech plays second fiddle to Georgia, but you're in that Georgia market. And Florida State is arguable between them and Florida. I don't think Miami's on the level of Florida State and Florida. I just don't. But it's arguably Florida State's the flagship program in Florida. Plus, it gives you recruiting grounds in the state of Florida. Plus the TV market, Florida TV market, Georgia TV market, boom. So if I want to be a thug, that's the way I'm going. I know a lot of popular opinion was go get North Carolina, but they're handcuffed to Duke. They're handcuffed to Duke because of the basketball rivalry, and we ain't trying to bring nobody over for basketball. We just ain't. Y'all want to keep your rivalry with Duke because of basketball. Y'all stay there at the ACC. We want football stuff here. We want football stuff. North Carolina will be good, but they're not coming without Duke because of the basketball. They're just I don't see them giving that up. Those two are handcuffed together, and I don't want Duke. Duke adds nothing to us, to the conference. I just don't want them. Don't want them. Just me. If y'all think Duke would be good, fine. But if I'm going to be a bully about it and just go about it and try to be mean about it and make my mark, I'm going to tear up the ACC, take away that safety net for Notre Dame's Olympic sports, and force them to finally, once and for all, get into a conference because their Olympic sports cannot survive as independents. Their football team can. Their Olympic sports, I don't see that happening. Force them to pick a conference, make it enticing for them to come to the Big Ten, work something out between our TV money and the TV money that they're getting from NBC, and because who's going? I mean, I think that would have to take a hit. Their TV thing would take a hit because who's going to want to watch? Who's the ACC going to replace those teams with? Coastal Carolina, Appalachian State. Tulane. Well, actually, Tulane ain't bad. Tulane ain't bad. If they had a bigger brand, Tulane, that's New Orleans market. But Tulane wouldn't be bad. But who are they going to replace? Be similar to what the Pac-12 is trying to do now, losing USC and UCLA. Who are you going to replace them with if you take out some of their name brands? And then, and I didn't omit Syracuse for those thinking, why not Syracuse and get that New York market? They're the flagship program in New York. Thing is, they're not AAU. I think I read somewhere they don't want no part of the AAU. They got other stuff going on. They don't think they need the AAU, so that's why I omitted Syracuse from this discussion. Or else they'd be a perfect fit, actually. But they're not AAU and not trying to get into the AAU. And again, Pitt, we already have Penn State, flagship program in the state, so we don't need them. But those are the three teams plus Notre Dame that I would get out of the ACC and make as attractive as possible to get them into the Big Ten. They meet all the criteria, flagship programs in their state, or right there. I think the biggest gap is probably between Georgia and Georgia Tech, but again, you're getting into the Georgia market. I think it's just a win-win all the way around for all those involved. And of course, again, I said this is the mean version. We don't care. USC and UCLA, they're just out there on the island by themselves. We're not trying to get y'all travel partners because we're trying to get Notre Dame. Y'all knew what y'all was doing when y'all joined the Big Ten. You're going to have to travel. The money make up for it, so you be all right. You be all right. Those are my two versions to get Notre Dame. The gentleman version, you go to West Coast, try to be nice to SC, UCLA, or the mean version, and let's break up another conference in the process. Because doing that, I think, would significantly damage the ACC if we're able to get any combination of teams, actually. But those are the three I picked for this, just because they're AAU, good academic schools, good in their sports programs are good. I think that would just be such natural fits in terms of Virginia, Georgia Tech, Florida State, and Notre Dame. The divisions would look a little bit different with the East Coast thug version. Out in the Big Ten West, you'd have you again USC, UCLA, Nebraska, Minnesota, Iowa, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, Northwestern, Purdue, and Indiana. Again, you got all your Indiana schools together. You keep some of your rivalries going. In the Big Ten West, you're not breaking up so many rivalries. And then, of course, in the Big Ten East, pretty much Ohio State, Penn State, Maryland, Virginia, Rutgers, Michigan, Michigan State, Illinois, Georgia Tech, Florida State. Again, get back to Illinois, Florida. Get to travel to Florida. We like to travel, y'all. Ohio State fans travel. We get to go to Florida every other year or however often that would happen. Get down to go to ATL and Georgia Tech. So I think that's good. It's doable. It could work. Like I said, it wouldn't be so hard now to break up the ACC. Everyone's getting out of their TV deals. Everyone thinks the grant of rights is hard. No, it's not. It's not as hard as people are making it out to be. And you already got Florida State and Clemson unhappy. So imploding the ACC may not be as hard as people think. But if I'm the commissioner, core dog the commish, that's the route I'm going. I'm trying to break up the ACC. I'm going to be mean about it. All right. Now let's say, for instance, no matter what, excuse me, no matter what core dog the commissioner does, we know Notre Dame, they some stubborn some of my bitches. They gonna stand pat no matter what. They just ain't gonna budge no matter what we do, no matter who we pry, no matter how many conferences we destroy. Notre Dame's gonna be Notre Dame, and they're not moving. So in that scenario, we gonna be nice guys again. We gonna go the nice route again, and we gonna go out west and help USC and UCLA. See, I got all angles covered. I got all the angles covered. I want Notre Dame, but at the end of the day, if I can't pull them, then I'm gonna go be nice again and just wipe out the Pac. Well, not so nice. I'm gonna wipe out the Pac-12 altogether. And we know that again, we get back to the two teams that they've been bantering about ever since this happened. It's always gonna be Oregon. And so anytime you go out west, you're gonna start with Oregon and Washington. Those are the given. Period. Flagship programs in their state, AAU, no-brainers, Oregon, and Washington. Now, where I differ from where I'm reading a lot of folks is they're saying Cal and Stanford. Now, based on Core Dog's criteria, yeah, they're AAU, good academic schools, but they're not the flagship programs in California. We got those already in USC and UCLA. They're in the northern part of the in the state. It's not as populated up there as it is in Southern Cal. I don't need Stanford, don't need Cal. If I'm going the West Coast expansion without Notre Dame, yeah, I'm getting Oregon, getting Washington. Y'all know where I'm going with this. You know where I'm going with this? I don't want the Arizona schools. Nah, I don't want the Arizona schools, but you know where I'm going. Utah. Utah, they're not the flagship program in that state. Oh, yeah, they are. Ever since they joined the Pac-12, they passed Brigham Young for y'all thinking Brigham Young. Maybe 10, 15 years ago was Brigham Young, but not anymore. I think Utah's passed them up. Flagship program in the state of Utah, AAU. And then, you know where else I'm going? Prime time. I ain't doing it because of him. I ain't doing it because of prime time. I was already going to do it anyway. Colorado. Flagship program in the state of Colorado. Boom. Prime time being there is just a bonus. That's what I'm doing if I got to go the gentleman's way and go back west in the event, no matter what I do, I cannot get Notre Dame. I think it's doable. I think those four teams are better than Cal and Stanford, because I just don't think Cal and Stanford add to the mix what you would get out of Utah and Colorado. And we see Utah plays Big Ten style of football. They do. In Colorado, I think they're going to be trending up. Be interested to see how what prime time does this year. He has a tough schedule, but if he learn to keep his mouth shut, stop saying some of the dumb stuff he be saying, we don't know. But but I'll be getting Utah and Colorado. And again, with that scenario, this is what my Big Ten West would now look like. USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Nebraska, still getting rid of the Indiana schools, Purdue, Indiana, Iowa, Utah. Your Big Ten West, and then your Big Ten East, Michigan, Michigan State, Minnesota, Illinois, Northwestern, Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin, Maryland, and Rutgers. And you can flip flop some of the teams if you want, but that's how I'm doing it. If there's no way and chance we can get Notre Dame, I'm going back west, giving USC and UCLA some travel partners and calling it a day. This is the mark I wanted to leave. No, but I'll be the same boat as every other person that tried to get Notre Dame, struck out and missed. Cause they just some stubborn some of my bitches. That's what Notre Dame is. But those are my three scenarios. The one I'm trying to first, of course, I'm gonna be mean. I'm gonna try to break up the ACC, and I think if you're able to break up the ACC, Big Ten has a good chance of getting Notre Dame. Like it or not, Notre Dame's the big fish out there in the conference. Big Ten has always wanted Notre Dame, and that's not changing anytime soon. So those are my scenarios. We'll see how it plays out moving forward. I think it's three good different scenarios for three good reasons. All the criteria matches up. It's not fantasy land stuff. I think it's all doable. So if the next commissioner can pull it off, or if they can't, they ought to give me a call and sit down with me, and I'll show them how to do it. Because I think I can pull it off. I can pull it off. Big Ten commish, core dog. Before I get how I just want to give props off to our ladies who are off in the Big Ten tournament, doing something that our fellas haven't been able to do, both on the gridiron and on the court. They beat Michigan. They done beat Michigan. They done three-peated against Michigan this year. They done beat Michigan. They're in the Big Ten tournament, so good congrats to them. It's hard to beat a team three times. So hopefully that trend will continue because they got Indiana next, and Indiana's already beat us twice. So hopefully our ladies can turn that around, get past Indiana. I think they got a good chance to do it. I think they got some of their mojo back. Even though McGuff didn't take my word, he played J.C. Sheldon, so I don't know if she's just out of time and trying to medical redshirt wasn't going to work. But if it was me, I would have medical redshirted J.C. Sheldon. But she played. She played sparingly, got in there, made some impact while she was the brief time she was in there. So hats off to J.C. Sheldon for getting back out there. Hopefully they incorporate her some more and like I said, do some damage in the Big Ten tournament and March Madness. So I think they can. I told you how I feel about this team. This team has Final Four potential. And our men got a little bit of life. Hope they can roll it off into the Big Ten tournament, and they got to win it. They got to win. Don't know if they're going to win the whole thing, but maybe they can play their way into the NIT. They got a little bit of their mojo back. They beat Maryland, so way to turn it around. They could have easily have given up on the season, but they didn't. So congrats to the men, and hopefully they have a good run in the Big Ten tournament. And then again, hats off. Speaking of tournaments, hats off to the ladies hockey team. Our ladies are doing it up. They doing it up. They advanced in the hockey tournament. So hats off to our ladies teams. They are doing it up. So again, if you're liking this segment, you want to comment on your own conference realignment stuff, scenarios, I'll be interested to hear it. What do you think about mine? Which version do you like the best? Nice about it, or you want to be mean about it? You want to be mean about it. We want to be mean about it. We going to break up the ACC. I prefer to be mean sometimes. I think we go after the ACC, break them up. But three different scenarios there. Two with Notre Dame, the one without. If we don't get Notre Dame, do you like those teams, those combination of teams, or would you go another route? I mean, you got Kansas out there. Don't do much football, but lift up the basketball profile. So just a lot of different ways you could go if you can't get Notre Dame, just depending on how nice you want to be about it. But with that said, y'all, hope you enjoyed this segment. Again, hit the like button. Interested in hearing your comments on the realignment stuff and how it's going. What do you think the next commissioner should do? Put your commissioner hat on. What would you do? Who would you go out and get, and how would you go about doing it? With that said, thank you for viewing. Appreciate it. As always, go Bucks. OHIO. I'm out.